This is my vision board that I just finished last night. It's more about making stuff. I like making collages. But anyway, just give yourself little reminders of those things you're manifesting. And this is spring in Alaska. What is it? April 18th. We have dandelions, and clovers, and grass, and snow. But this is my little way to suntan on my bed. Yeah! I know what you guys want. I know that you want a talking head video. That's what you want, right? Let's see here. Can see. I'm sun gazing. Okay, I can't see myself. I'm sun tanning. Here's the setup. This is what I've been doing every day this week. This gorgeous weather is not really like you can suntan out in the yard, but you can suntan in your bedroom if you're so lucky as to have a bed where the sun shines right in the window. Which got me to wanting to go out in nature and make one of my infamous walking, talking videos, but it's not really that nice out. It's like muddy and melting and just kind of ugh. So I had this idea. I was gonna go to the tropical greenhouse and film in there. A weird thing happened. Well, other people would think it's weird. To me, it's totally normal. I walked in, there was people in there. I was like, oh well, I'll wait for them to leave. So I was walking past them because I was going to go towards the back. And I hear my name. And I look through some plants and I don't recognize these people. But the guy is like motioning for me to come over, and so I come around the plant and I realize it's a friend I haven't seen in a long time. He just looked different. And I was like, whoa. I mean, the chances of us both going to this place on the same day, very random. And then he told me that he had just told the friend he was sitting with, because she's new in Anchorage, that he would introduce her to some people, and he said, you know, usually they just kind of show up. And he had said that about 5 or 10 seconds before I walked in. And then we sat down to talk, and suddenly he thought of the time, which he apparently hadn't thought of in a while, and realized that before I'd even walked in there, he should have left to pick up his dad and drop off his friend. And if I hadn't walked in there, he may not have thought about the time. And so basically, that's what the universe does when you realize it's a magical place that knows exactly what it's doing. Then you see all the synchronicities and it just becomes hilarious. So, actually the intention behind making a video for you guys, just see if was that this last week was really weird for me because I had a muscle spasm in my neck and shoulder that basically just progressed over time from, I've been trying to get these kinks worked out by going to massage and chiropractic, and I just started hitting it really hard with the myofascial tension therapist, and it kept getting worse and worse, and she kept saying, you know, it gets worse before it gets better, and I was like, yeah. And then I woke up one morning and I was in like a muscle spasm, which was like, hasn't been this bad since, well, let me put it to you this way. It's been this bad twice before. The first time was in the 90s when I lived in Portland, and I was out of commission for 2 or 3 months because I didn't have any clue then. That was the first time I really started to get acquainted with the pain, syndrome, and emotion connection because I read this book by a guy, I believe Dr. Sarno, I believe is what it was, and the title is something like Heal Back Pain Forever or something like that. Somebody got the book for me when I was going through this, and I read it, and it made perfect sense, and basically it just explains that if you repress emotions because you don't want to experience them, then the body will come across with pain. Or another way of looking at it is the body will use pain to distract you from experiencing those emotions because it thinks that, you know, it just doesn't want to experience those emotions. That's the ego, because the ego knows that if you fully experienced all of your emotions, then nothing could ever be wrong. You would just be in a state of knowingness all the time. This is why I have so many conflicts with people who, like, they want to pretend like things are okay when they're not, because that's what they've been trained by society to do. And so if you express anger or frustration, or just even sometimes if you just tell the truth, people get really angry and upset, basically because they're not used to having to confront their own feelings. I find that this happens in so many cases with people who use any kind of substance or food. So like alcohol, cigarettes, especially marijuana. Marijuana is one of the biggest ones that people use to cover up frustration. But any kind of drug, or even food, because food is a drug. But it's typically people who are using some kind of substance to suppress their emotions, and they think because they're doing that, that they're doing the right thing, or that, you know, by not becoming angry or expressing frustration or sadness or even happiness. You know, we've even been taught to suppress happiness. How many times have you just been really happy and laughing and people thought you were crazy because you were just enjoying life? We're just trained by society to suppress emotions. And so, like, basically part of that is the ego's plan to keep us in denial. Denial is the root of all problems, in my understanding. Like, if we weren't denying in any area of our lives, we would be in total completeness at all times. But I think half of what we're denying is a reality that we're too afraid to see. Like, I mean, just for example, I can see energy around things. I can pick up on people's thoughts sometimes. These kind of things like scare people, and so they suppress them. They don't want to have those experiences, and so they try to cover it up in whatever way, usually, which is just like the ego just denies that that's even possible, and so everything becomes seen and perceived as random and chaotic. And the truth is, everything is divinely ordered and perfect. And if we weren't in denial, we would be seeing everything really clearly. We would be seeing things that we don't normally see because we've closed off those aspects of our brain that can perceive that stuff. Anyway, so this week when I realized that these, like, actually I didn't really realize it. I was in a kind of like a like a state of like, let's just keep throwing money at this problem and try to make it go away, which was what I was doing, was trying to deal too much on the physical level and not deal with the underlying issue, which this has been plaguing me forever. This is why I've become dependent on opiates twice before, is because of this pain syndrome. So the second time that this same muscle group and series of connections in my neck and shoulder all spasmed up were when I went to the chiropractor a few years ago and was trying to have everything corrected. You know, I was like dealing with it on a physical level, and so I basically reawakened that whole emotional issue. This is all just like energy blocked behind my ear and in the top of my neck and connecting through the myofascial in the shoulder blade. It's all emotional stuff, and this reawakening of the muscle spasm, because of just going and trying to get it physically repaired, basically just awakened it. And it was like that emotion wanted to come out, and it was coming out in ways that even I didn't like. You know, like I found myself like getting stupidly frustrated over little things and yelling at my kids, and then guilting and shaming myself for being a bad person who can't control their anger. And that would just further complicate the pain syndrome, because those emotions were trying so hard to just have their own life, just to be expressed. They pretty much still are. But the worst part was like 2 days of just laying in bed. Really, like, I couldn't move my head at all without being in excruciating pain. And then I spontaneously, in the shower, just started tapping on the muscles and talking to them. Like, kind of what this book I read in the 90s tells you, is that you talk to the pain, or the part of your brain that's causing the pain. And basically, this is the whole premise of the book. You just say, stop it, I know what you're doing. And so, like, I knew this was happening, and so I was saying stuff like this, but I wasn't having those effects that I was wanting. And so, spontaneously in the shower, I started tapping on the muscles, and basically, it was like getting right to the point of the muscle that was having the problem and telling it, you know, thank you, that's enough. Like, I know what you're doing. I'm strong enough to experience these emotions, and there's no possible physical reason for you to be in a state of tension like this right now. Basically, it's just, and I'm messing around with it right now because it keeps trying to do it today, because I was working really hard on it last night on the physical level, and it's like the emotional level is the one that wants to be dealt with. So I'm trying to untrain myself from suppressing emotion, because I know what's in here, and I just discovered through the last week of meditating about this problem is it's the part of me that believes that it's not good enough. And there's a part, you know, if you get to the root of every kind of illness or pain or problem, even broken bones, which someone would say, you know, like, that can't be caused by a thought, but it can, because a thought can cause an imbalance, which would be the reason that you weren't in your full awareness that caused the accident to happen. So every single problem that you can experience can be related back to a thought. And if you can discover what that thought is, then you can reprogram your thinking in a different way. This is why I love hypnosis, and I've been doing hypnosis like all week long, and it's the tapping on the muscle and talking to it and the hypnosis that's really, you know, helping me to understand that just how powerful our thoughts are. First of all, I was really upset when it happened because nobody likes to be in pain. But over the course of the week, my perspective has shifted to gratitude, because it's almost like an entire reawakening of how powerful I am has occurred, because I realized I'm causing this pain with my thoughts. That's a powerful, awareness. So, changing the thinking, I'm not saying like this is like the easiest thing in the world to do, but I am saying that you can do it. And it does take concerted focus and effort, and that's what I love about hypnosis. Basically, here's the thing. Everyone knows about the law of attraction, and they think that what is meant by the law of attraction, what you believe is what you receive. That's true. But people try to change what they believe at the conscious level, and then they're not aware of the fact that what they believe on the subconscious level is like 100 times more powerful than the thoughts that they're aware that they're thinking. And so there's a thought program in the subconscious that I picked up when I was young, which is that I'm not good enough. It's not true, but that is so deeply buried in the subconscious that it actually affects my daily reality. It affects what happens in my body. It affects what happens in my life. It affects how I deal with people. It affects the fact that I don't want to deal with people. I mean, it's everything. These core beliefs are everything that creates our reality. That's what does it. And so this week has been really, it's just been kind of like a super cool reminder, because I told myself my kids were sick, and I usually don't get sick, but I know that if I let my immune system down, then I do end up getting sick. And so I was telling myself, I don't want to let these emotions out, because if I cry, then I'm going to get sick. And so at a certain point, I finally did like release a bunch of emotion, but then I started to get sick, and then it got worse, and then I got frustrated, and then I repressed more emotions. And now I'm just starting to heal from this really bad sore throat that hung on for like a week. I've been coughing up this nasty phlegm, and it's like, what I realize actually is that I'm detoxing so much crazy shit, and on the other side of this is like a whole new me to be experienced. I'm pretty excited about it. I will say one of the things I've been doing this week is using nature's medicine. I just could not mentally get these muscles to relax, and so I did go to my natural store and get some tinctures of, there's so many herbs on the market that are natural muscle relaxers, like valerian root and kava kava and passion flower and catnip. And of course, I've been taking copious amounts of magnesium and apple cider vinegar. Everything that relaxes the muscles, I've been taking. And it's just a reminder of how powerfully connected the collective conscience is. It's like, in this whole life experience, which is basically our very own personal matrix, and I don't mean that in a negative way, it's like, we're not the body, we're the awareness that's experiencing this feeling of being in a body. So it's kind of like, I say this all the time, but it's like the holodeck on Star Trek. It's like you put the program in, and then you go inside, and it feels really real, but it's actually just a dream. It's like a dream world. So the Matrix, the holodeck, whatever you want to call it, basically we're driving around in these cool little spaceship cars, or some people call them the body, or you can think, sometimes I think of it as the robot. And it's like, it's lost on us every day, like how profound this experience is. We get caught up in the dramas, we get caught up in the daily tasks and, you know, the mundane things that we have to do, like pay the bills, and we forget it's fucking brilliant what we're doing, just walking around in these little suits. And so I've become very, very grateful this week, even at the concept of being able to experience pain, which is just basically a reminder of how powerful the mind is. And reminding yourself how powerful the mind is like a step in the direction of remembering, you know, you can create cool stuff too. Like, sometimes if you're just not paying attention and you're kind of like zoned out and bored with everything, something has to happen in your life to be a catalyst to remind you of just how cool this experience is. And it's kind of weird sometimes that it's like pain, or, you know, like, how many times have you had a traumatic experience that resulted in so much awakening? It's just like everything is perfect. And once you realize how perfect everything is, then, you know, even something like a muscle spasm in your neck where you can't get out of bed for 2 days becomes a blessed experience. Anyway, yeah, so, you know, there's things you can do within the collective conscience that are like way less detrimental to the physical being than going and getting a prescription from the doctor. That just temporary things like tuning into the plant world, like the plants I mentioned that are natural muscle relaxers. It's like, it's there for you to have that experience. You know, technically you can do it, but if you're finding that your subconscious thoughts are overpowering, you know, the change that you want to make, and you're not there yet, there's a lot of cool stuff on the planet that is just, you know, interesting to be able to do. Or, as you know, some channelings I've read saying to the effect of what I'm saying is just like, you know, if you wanted to come into this experience when everything was perfect and everybody knew energy medicine, then that's when you would have come in. But you actually wanted to come here and experience these, you know, potentialities in the plant world and nature and even the chemicalized versions. I mean, you know, the whole idea of medicine eventually will become a totally moot point when we remember that we're totally indestructible, all-powerful, capable beings. But at this point where we perceive that we're not, you know, we're having this cool little experience of being able to sample nature's different frequencies. Like the plant valerian root is a certain frequency that the whole collective conscience of the matrix or the program has agreed does a certain thing. Like kava kava, we have all agreed with our collective mind that the kava kava does a certain thing, just like we've all agreed with the collective conscience that chocolate or coffee, it does a certain thing. And we're just here having these cool little experiences, and there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just interesting ideas. But just to become aware that your brain is powerful enough to overcome all of it. I mean, you can put the frequency of relaxation into your mind right in this moment, and if you believe it, it'll happen. So that's a little spouting off for today. Talk to you guys later.